Hello guys, this is PC Crypto and today we're talking with Sophie from Eigenphi. I was reviewing Eigenphi many times over and using that for my data for MEV and today we have a chance to talk deeply about various MEV aspects. Hello Sophie.
Okay, hi PC, thank you. Hi everyone, this is Sophie. I'm the data scientist from Eigenphi, and so Eigenphi is a data platform that kept monitoring the on-chain liquidities, especially on the MEV activities. So yeah, happy to join here and be here and discussing about MEV today.
Awesome. How did you start with Eigenphi?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I used to be a data scientist, but it's not on the traditional financial market. It's not on the it's not related to everything. Is not related to blockchain, but this is my Eigenphi is my first job of doing the data analysis on the blockchain. So that's how I started here.
So how does traditional markets compare to crypto markets? Because I think you have, because of like everything being on chain, you have much more transparency, right? And you can analyze more data in general.
Yeah, that's true. For the traditional market, most of the time you need to do a lot of math and you need to do a lot of probabilistic. So you need to, sometimes I was saying it's like guess about the probability of something happens. But for blockchain, all the data is transparent. And all the transactions happen on chain. You can view it, you can see it, and you can see every details like the logs and also the data. So it's more convenient for a data scientist to do a lot of analysis and also come up with some conclusions on it, I think.
Yeah. So getting started on a very simple terms, like how would you define MEV or maximum extractable value for the people that haven't heard about it before, but know something about blockchain, like very.
Yeah. So for MEV, normally it refers to the maximum extractable value that could be extracted from the on-chain transactions based on its ordering of the transaction in the block, but for that definition, you like for most of the people could come up with like two questions. So one question is why there is value that exists in the blockchain for the searchers to extract it, right? And the second would be why the ordering of the transaction in the block matters for the MEV. So that's the two questions I'm hoping to discuss here and share with everyone. So I hope that could help more people to understand it, what is MEV that happens in the market. So for the first question, where is this extra value comes from? That is something that we can discuss if you trade in DeFi. There's a word that I think PC also the audience may be familiar with is a slippage, right? So if you trade in DeFi, you will need to suffer the slippage, and that is from the nature of the AMM. So every time there's someone makes a trade in a pool, that will if like they put some volumes in this pool, that will infect the person that is trading after it. So the price is different from the one that was trading before you. And if someone was trading in the pool with a high volume, that will create some opportunities like the price difference between this pool and the other pool in blockchain. So that's where the arbitragers could find the opportunity to buy some tokens at a low price in a specific pool and then choose to sell it in another pool to gain the profit. So that's how that's where the value comes from. And to answer the second question, why the ordering of the transaction in a block matters in MEV. Again, so if you're doing, for the searchers if they want to do the MEV, they need to submit the transactions, and I think the people may or may not be familiar with information or the word is mempool. So if you submit the transaction is not executed like directly and put on chain. Most of the time, the transaction will be waited in the mempool, if you submit the transactions through like a non-private RPC, then the transaction will stay temporarily in the public mempool. And then this transaction needs to be waited for the block builders to include your transaction in the block, right? So most of the time, if a searcher send a transaction in the mempool and wait for the block builders, if there's no extra tip or extra priority fee to pay for the builders, then there's no incentive for the block builders to include the transaction in the next block, right? And then if the searcher's transaction is not executed timely, then these opportunities, the arbitrage opportunities, can go on very quickly. So that's why currently most of the searchers would choose to pay bribes, that is some extra tips, to the block builders to ask them to include their transaction in the block. And that is why the ordering of the transaction is very important. So because they pay the tips to the builders, so the builders can include them transactions in the block and then put the transaction at top of the block or in the right position, whatever they want. So that's how. That's just answering the questions of my different how to define MEV. I'm just like talking a little bit more about.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So you just mentioned one thing that maybe it's worth explaining for the audience is who is a searcher.
Who is a searcher? The one that is doing the MEV transactions. That is a searcher. So
the one who's looking for opportunities on the on chain.
Yes. So we need to separate very clearly on the user's transaction and also the searcher's transaction. Because I just mentioned about the searchers trying to find the opportunities in the market. They're trying to find any price difference between different pools and then just gain profit from it. But for normal user transactions, like for everyone, if you want to buy a token, you just trade. You put your transaction through some public RPC and then put it, and then we'll wait in the mempool. But what the searchers will do is they notice your transactions in the mempool, and then they will backrun your transactions. So for the arbitrage searchers, it doesn't cause the loss for the normal user transaction, right? It's just what they do is just backrun them. Their transactions is after the user's transaction, so the user didn't suffer any loss from a backrunning transaction. But there's another kind of searcher that's not what the arbitrary searcher we talk about. That is called sandwich searcher. What a sandwich searcher will do is they will put a transaction in front of the user's transaction. And what they do is to treat the same token with the same direction. So if you want to buy, let's see, if you want to buy a meme coin, if you want to buy a PP coin in Uniswap, and what Jerry's Subway bot would do is he would send a transaction in front of you, also buying the meme coin. And what the cause of this front running is the price that the user trying to buy is higher than it originally. Then originally he would notice about this transaction. Notice about is a little bit higher than originally without this front running, right? So but still it's within the user's setting of the slippage, because if if it's exceed if it exceeds the limit, then the transaction will fail. But still the user will suffer some loss because without this front running, they would get a better price. But now with the front running, they will get lower, the higher price, more expensive price to buy some tokens. So that's what we call that's a difference from that's a difference for different searchers. For the arbitrary searchers, is what they do is just simply backrun the transaction. User won't suffer any loss. But for sandwich searchers, they would normally do a front running before your user's transaction, and the user will suffer the loss from the sandwich attacks.
Right. So you have mentioned sandwich attacks and arbitrage. What are some other typical MEV opportunities that you can mention?
Yes, so for Eigenphi, we have identified the atomic MEV transactions like the arbitrage transaction and also sandwich attacks. But there's another atomic MEV type called liquidation. So the liquidation transaction is also very clear. There's something needs to happen before this liquidation transaction. That is, there needs to be a borrower trying to borrow some token out from like some protocol, like let's see, AV. And then what they need to do is they need to put some collateral into the protocol, so then they can borrow some token out. But if there's some price decline for the protocols, for the collateral assets in the protocol, and then trigger the liquidation, and then the liquidator would go to the protocols to help the borrower to pay the debt and then get their collateral assets. But this process is happened because the liquidator could get the collateral assets in a better price, because the borrower would over the value that they put in the protocol as collateral will be more than the value that they borrow from the protocol, because the protocol needs to protect their assets, right? So most of the time, the liquidator would get the collateral assets in a better price, and then they will sell the collateral assets in some other platforms, like very similar to the arbitrage transactions.
Yeah. So how does the value go into all those different types of MEV opportunities, like where people can or do make the most of money right now? I guess like in the meme coin season, that was mostly, liquidations were probably big when the market is super volatile, right? So that was, I would assume that in the meme coin season, that was mostly sandwiching. And that's when the infamous Jared from Subway came around. Yes. And the last time I checked on Eigenphi, he's still like the #1 when it comes to the money made. And that's for me like pretty incredible that people like couldn't overcome him here, because I think like it's super competitive landscape, right? Like being in an MEV, it's like the constant struggle to find new opportunities and make better your code. So maybe that's like actually two questions. So because I'm super curious on Jared from Subway and why he's like still the best, and on the other hand, what are the general money being made in different categories, and how, like, where's the most money right now?
Yeah, I think you're correct. The sandwich bots are generating, most of the time they're generating a little bit more than the arbitrage bots. And also, I think the liquidation bots is the one that is generating the less revenue from, like, compared with the other two MEV types, because liquidation is definitely highly depends on the market. If there's like some big fluctuation of the price in the market, then liquidation opportunities will be more. Like for last year, during the time of the Luna crash in May, I think, and also the FTX crash in November, it creates a lot of the liquidation opportunities. But if the market is stable, like for last month, then there won't be much liquidation opportunities. But the reason why you can see the sandwich bots is generating more profit than the arbitrage bots recently is definitely, of course, the appearance of the Jared Subway sandwich bot. And the question that you mentioned is why Jared is still like ranking the #1 of the sandwich bots. So here's some spicy information I could share. Is I think Jared is not only doing simply sandwich attacks. He's also doing some high-frequency trading strategies within its sandwich transaction. So Jared is doing some front-running transactions, trying to buy the meme coin, and then doing background transaction to sell some meme coin. But normally for sandwich bots, the amount that they buy at the front running, they will sell them all at the back running. So they will, most of the time, they will keep the tokens like the WTH or the USDC. Some big coins they want to keep, but not the meme coins. But Jared is, if you keep track of the Jared bot's transaction, you will notice that most of his sandwich transaction, he would choose to keep some meme coins. And also, so that's a high suspicious that he's trying to also gain profit from keeping the meme coins if the price of the meme coins goes up, and he will gain extra profit from it as well. So, and also there's another trend because of some mixed strategies of his sandwich transactions. You will notice that he will gain some profit from other strategies, not just from sandwich. So the amount of money he's willing to pay to the builders is more than other sandwich bots, because other sandwich bots is simply trading based on the sandwich strategies. But that's why the other sandwich bots couldn't beat the Jerry Subway bots in this. That could be the reason. That's the answer for the question why you think why is Jerry is
I've seen something like that, because I've seen like some of his transactions which are like super minuscule when it comes to profit, because he made like $10, but then I noticed that actually he didn't sell all the tokens he bought, like not all the meme coins, and that was like very strange for some reason, because like those standard MEV bots try to just sell everything back to like either stablecoin or ETH or BTC or whatever it is, but he didn't. So yeah, I mean this is really really great explanation, I think, if that really happens, and also this like very interesting reason why he might be at the top of the game, because others are not using those kind of mixed strategies still. Yes. So that's like very, very interesting. So we can talk about the market outlook. I've seen the great article, like the one you produced about the MEV market outlook for 2023 and for 2022, and then we can talk about the first two quarters of 2023. So what are like the data points that you think are really important to highlight for the audience when it comes to MEV?
So the outlook that you mentioned is based on the MEV market of 2022, but we have just conclude our data to show you about how the MEV market goes since the merge to the 2023 of June this year. So I'm hoping to share my slides.
Yeah, let's try it.
Yeah, Here's the data for the MEV activities since the merge. There are several significant events happened since the merge, like the FTX crash last year in November, and also the USDC DPEG in March this year, and also the appearance of the Jared MEV bots since April. So this notable events has bring more opportunities for MEV since the merge, and that's just like the MEV activities, just like the counts of the MEV. But if you want to know how much money, how much value that has been generated from those MEV searchers since the merge, here is the data that we have been calculated. So as you can see, the data, the revenue that has been generated by the MEV searchers has peaked on the months of the November last year, and also for the March this year, and also for the May. I think because why there are much more revenue generated by the MEV bots in May this year is because of the bloom of the meme coins. So the sandwich attackers like the Jared MEV bots has generated a lot of the revenue, and also the arbitrage bots has generated more revenue as well. And also what I want to talk about is the USDC DPEG this year in March. It also creates much more opportunities for arbitrageurs in March this year compared with other months. Because of the USDC DPEG, there's a lot of the selling of and the buying of the other stable coins, and that creates a lot of the price difference of different pools. So a lot of opportunities brings by this event to the arbitrages market. Yeah, and I think this is the revenues that I have labeled all the numbers. So if anyone is interested, you can make a screenshot of the video and see like details about how much revenue has been generated from the MEV searchers in each month. And so yeah, that's some data that I hope to share about the MEV revenue on Ethereum after the merge.
That data was really great. I mean, so also one question, Jared from Subway only appeared in April this year, right? Well,
April, yes.
Yeah, and he wasn't active before because I think like the strategy, yeah, I wonder whether his strategy was possible before or just maybe someone just cracked the code like in April, or what do you think is the reason why we didn't see like this? Because I think like the market before Jared was like more varied. I think like those MEV bots like changed over time. There were like more competition. People like, you know, there was like no one bot running for like what, 3 months right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Jared has created the bot at February this year. So and he went on his strategy like in February and in March, but didn't generate much attention until April. I think there's some kind of different. There's multiple reasons why Jared could generate a lot of attention in April. One possible reason is because of the bloom of the meme coin. I think because the trading of the PEP coin in April brings a lot of opportunities for Jared to ranking very quickly to the first position. And the second reason I think would be possible is, I'm not sure whether you have heard about the validators attack on the sandwich searchers happened. It's a little bit, it's a bug of MEV Boost. So and causing there's a validators break up the bundles of the sandwich transactions and then attacked on the sandwich attackers. Okay. So yeah, this story is very interesting. For anyone who is interested, you can trace our Twitters. We have a Twitter telling about the details. Also, we have a YouTube videos telling about details of how this attack happens. But what is important is this top 5 sandwich searchers lose around, I think it's $20 million, right? I'm not quite sure about the exact number, but they do. The top 5 sandwich searchers indeed lose a lot of money at that time during that attack. So the top 5 sandwich searchers has stopped their bot for some time, and that did cause some opportunities for the Jared bots to to grasp the opportunities and then generate a lot of attention at that time.
And that happened when? That happened like around February, or?
Yes, that's happened before April.
For the meme coin season. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, super interesting. So let's talk about how the trends change over time. Like, do you see, like, for example, there is more arbitrage now than sandwich attacks, or sandwich attacks more than like general liquidations? Like, how does the market evolve? Like, what also changed? Whether like going from proof of work to proof of stake on Ethereum, did that change anything? Like, in a context of MEV?
Yeah, I think I do notice you can see the MEV market is definitely relies highly on the market fluctuation. But of course, I think the baseline of the MEV activities has definitely increased since the merge. Like changing from the POW to POS. If you want to ask me what am I thinking of how the MEV market will go in the future, what I would say is I think it will increase, and it is definitely promising, because the information that I gain from the market is that there's a lot of roles has been involved in the MEV market. So most of the time we were discussing about MEV searchers, right? But to be clear, MEV searchers is definitely not the only role involved in the supply chain. There's a whole, there's a whole supply chain in the market. You have the MEV searchers, and you have the builders, and you have the validators. So they're all involved in the supply chain, and they all gain profit from the MEV market. And I think more and more people start to notice that, like if you are validators or if you are builders, you have been noticing that you have generate much like more profit from MEV. And of course, there are more participants wants to join the party now, so they want to involve in the MEV. As far as I know, there's some like private RPCs. They first build the private RPCs trying to help the users to protect the users' transactions, because if you send your transactions through a private RPC, then the sandwich attackers won't notice your transaction, and you will just like avoid from being sandwich attacks. But what the private RPC want to do is trying to sell their order flow to the MEV searchers, so that the MEV searchers could backrun their transaction, but not front run. They could backrun their transaction. Mm-hmm. So the user's transaction won't get, they won't get any loss. As I mentioned earlier, backrunning transaction won't cause users loss. But what they want to do is they sell the transaction to the MEV searchers, and if the MEV searchers gain the profit from backrunning, and then they can return some of the profit to the users. So if you send through some private RPC, not only that it protect you from being sandwich attacks, you can also gain a little bit more profit from some MEV searchers that backrunning you. I think it's a very promising market, because you can see there is an increasing trend of the private order flow currently in the market. I think compared with last year, definitely this number is increasing. So if more participants, more parties come into the market, that will definitely make this market more efficiently, and also make the cake bigger, right? Make the more people come in and make the cake bigger, and more parties, and those parties could split the MEV market revenue from it.
It also sounds like a win-win scenario, right? For the users,
yes.
Like the one you mentioned. Without the sandwiching, but still some opportunity for the searchers. No, it sounds really great. I'm very optimistic about the future, even though there are some concerns about the regulations for MEV. I was talking with my friend about it, but yeah, this is pure speculation. We don't know what will happen here. I also wanted to ask about going outside of a single chain, and especially going from DeFi to CeFi, centralized exchanges, and back, and what can you tell about this scenario? Because MEV, for anyone listening, and MEV is not only one chain, Ethereum only. There are other chains. You can do cross chain, you can do CeFi to CeFi, DeFi to CeFi, and a bunch of other stuff as well.
Yes, I think the arbitrages that we talked earlier is only based on one chain. So you find a pool, there's a price difference, and you find another pool, so you can buy at low price and sell at high price. Mm-hmm. But every time you are doing this kind of action, you're buying something at low price and you want to sell it in another place. So this other place, you can choose within the same chain. You can choose in Ethereum. So you are doing atomic arbitrage. And you can also trying to sell it, waiting for some blocks and then sell it in another transaction. So it's not atomic arbitrage. It's cross blocks. So, but still within the same chain, right? But if you find that there's some opportunities in another chain, like if you buy it in Ethereum, and you find that if you sell on the Binance Smart Chain, it will at better price, higher price to sell it, and you can definitely move your assets to another chain and then sell it and then gain the arbitrage from cross-chain arbitrage. And one thing is, and they also think you can also sell your assets that you buy in Ethereum in the centralized exchange platform. And if the price is better there, and then definitely you can doing arbitrage between the DEX and the SEX. And the thing that I want to mention is there's a increasing trend of the research being done on the CeFi DeFi arbitrage recently. They do notice they do notice that there's some big firms stepping into the MEV market, and then they were doing, because the big firms normally were doing their strategies on the CeFi part, but if they step into the DeFi part, they can, pay much builder tip than the normal MEV searchers, the atomic MEV searchers that were mentioned. So I think there's a lot of interesting research has been done on the CeFi DeFi arbitrage. If anyone is interested, you can search for the research that has been done from SMG and also from Frontier. They have calculated on how much revenue has been generated from the CeFi DeFi arbitrage. I think the number is comparable with the
just atomic ethereum.
Yeah, with just the atomic MEV.
Okay,
Yeah,
which
so
makes sense,
if you
because
see,
probably you have so many exchanges that you can do your arbitrage.
Yeah, of course.
Very interesting. Do you have any final remarks or advice for people that want to get into MEV market or want to talk about Eigenphi in specific? Maybe you can do two things. Do you have any specific advice for people that want to get into MEV? How do they start?
Yeah, I think MEV is still quite a dark forest for the normal users, right? So it's hard for them to understand what is happening underlying of the MEV market. So because of this dark forest, there needs to have a tool to help the users to understand more about the transactions, about MEV transactions. That is where I want to share our transaction analysis tool. There's called EigenTX. So if you're a normal user, you want to know whether your transactions has become a victim of the sandwich transactions, you can search your transaction hash in our search box and see whether you become the victim or not. And also, if you search your transactions, our transaction analysis tool will provide you a token flow of how the tokens flow between different addresses, and you need to be aware of whether there's abnormal transfer of the token from the address to a leaf address, because there will be some attacks happens. Also, some tax tokens. If you trade the tax tokens, there will be extra token flows to a leaf address, so you will lose some money from this kind of abnormal behavior. So yeah, that's something that I want to tell to the normal users, and also for someone who wants to try MEV strategies, also want to do the MEV strategies, you also need to know what other bots is doing. You also because the MEV searchers are very, very clever. They kept changing their strategies all the time. So what you can do is to view on our website to see the top 5 contract or top 10 contract, what the other searchers would do, and then you can learn from them, learn from the best, right, of course. And then if there's some long tail MEV activities appears, you can grab these opportunities very quickly, and you can follow them to gain the money from the MEV market. I think definitely know MEV first. If you don't have much experience before, you can read our research and you can view our data as well, and also use a tool to help you to understand about the MEV transactions. And if you are if you have done some MEV researches, if you have done some MEV transactions before, just keep monitoring on the long tail MEV opportunities from our website, and they will help you to gain some money from it.
Thank you. That's great. Yeah, thank you, Sophie. That was a really great chat. I'm really happy we could get these insights into MEV market and talk through different insights and opportunities. Really great chat. Thank you for watching to all the audience, and of course all the links will be down below in the description if you want to follow to Eigenphi and everything else. Thank you for talking.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks, PC.